Hey guys, what's going on? So in today's video, what I'm going to be doing is walking you through how to actually properly structure an API call. Now I've got a lot of comments and a lot of requests to make this video, so with popular demand, here we are making it. And for today's test subject, we're going to be using Paperquote API. Now this is a free API that you can go and download and play around with. So in order to get started, you just sign up for free and you would go ahead and get your own API keys. So I just got a burner account really, and after that I went and generated my API keys. You're going to go here and you're just going to copy and paste, and for the purpose of today's video, this is the API key I'm going to be using. Go ahead and sign up for your own API. It's probably the best thing to do anyways. And so what we're going to be doing in today's video is we're going to be structuring how to actually create an API. And what I mean by that, let me just go back here, is there's several ways to call an API. So if you go under the API docs here, all of these are considered different types of endpoints for an API. So you're going to have to go ahead and pass in your authentication key or your token in this case, and then finally go ahead and put in any parameters that you need to pull from these endpoints themselves. Now a lot of people will just create a vanilla pull. So they'll do something like import requests, and let me just save this as a Python file so that it actually does this properly. So save as, I don't know, we'll call this API test.py. Now once you do that, you'll see this changes, and I'm using Sublime Text for those who are interested in this. Let me go ahead and make the screen a little bit bigger as well. So what a lot of people will do is they'll just say, all right, I'm going to take the API link. So in this case, let me just grab the link from the website here. So you'll go and people will say, okay, I'm going to take this, we'll do simple usage. I'm going to take this get command over here and just do a pull against it. And typically what they'll do is they'll do something like link is equal to this. And so let me just go ahead and do this, and then they'll go ahead and create a request against it. So they'll do something like, so result is equal to requests.get, and then they'll do link in here, and then they'll pass in the API key. So they'll do something like headers is equal to, and then when you're going to structure your actual pass for an API key, you do something like authorization, which is the fact that you're passing in a token. So we're going to go ahead and grab that token from here. Let me just go ahead and grab that and put it here. And I'm going to show you why it works, but why it's not the best way to do it. And they'll do something like that. And then we want to pull this as a JSON file. So we'll do .json at the end. And while I'm at it, I'll import JSON up here. And then finally, they'll do something like print res. And once you do that, print res, it'll go ahead and pull all the data for you. Now what you've seen here is that I've gone ahead and created an API in like literally 2 minutes here, or an API request that is. What happens here is every single time this is considered an endpoint. So every time I go to this link, this is going to be considered an endpoint, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this link based on these authorization headers. Now, when you have multiple endpoints, this can get very, very messy, because in every single request, you're going to be passing a link and you're going to be passing the token. And it just gets a little confusing. So if I wanted to go and do request number 2, I may pick something like request.get, and then instead of that link, I'll just copy and paste a different link. Maybe we'll do the one with how large it is going to be, whether it's going to be big or small. So let's go ahead and pull that link over here. And so if we scroll up, maybe we want to do it by length, for example. So I'll go ahead and pull this API key, or this API link, sorry. I'll put it in here. And then I'm going to have to do the request again, or the headers again for the authentication. Because every single time you're pulling this, you've got to authenticate yourself. You've got to let it know that you're actually authenticated to do this. So let's just pop that in here. And then we'll go ahead and print request 2. And you'll see it pulls the data again. So this is basically saying pull anything that has 20 characters, less than 20 characters, and greater than 5 characters. So as you can see, my code is already starting to get messy. And if you can imagine you have 20, 30 endpoints, it's, a little bit tough to do. Now you can also use something called graphical or GraphQL, and I will post a link above, where you only need one endpoint and you can actually query it within the actual interface itself. But REST APIs is still a very, very common way of getting access to data. So let me show you how you would properly structure something like this. First thing you want to do is you always want to go ahead and put this in a class. So we're going to go ahead and erase all of this stuff. And we're going to do something like class quotes. And the class really helps to organize your code. And so once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and define the init function. So every single class is going to have an initialization function, and we'll give it self as a parameter. And then you're just going to do something like self.s is equal to, now this is where I would say this is the better way to do it. You always want to use sessions, and sessions is just a cleaner way to do it. It organizes your code, and you can pass things like the authentication key right through your session. So I can do something like self.s.headers is equal to, and I'm going to copy and paste that code over, and so we'll paste that over here. So now every single time I push a request through the session, it's going to automatically authenticate, so I don't have to keep adding this in the actual endpoint. Now once you've done that, let's go ahead and define our first pull, and the first pull was we were doing it by tags. So we'll do something like define get quote tags, and we'll pass in the self parameter. Now the tag also had like a tag you can actually pull through. I think they had like love and they had something else, and then how many records you want to actually pull. So we'll go ahead and pass these two variables through it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that link, and I'm going to walk you through what I just did here. So I'm basically returning self.s.get, and then this is the link, and I'm passing in the parameter tag, which is here, and then limit, which is what I'm pushing through, and we're going to format that using the format feature and push it out as a JSON. And again, the one thing you've noticed here, I'm not passing any authentication criteria because it's getting handled up here. So I never have to do this over and over again. And my APIs just become that much cleaner. So that's one. So let's go ahead and see what this actually gives us in terms of result. So first, I'm going to go ahead and initiate this class. So I'm going to designate that as Q, and then I'm going to do something like print Q dot get quote tags, and in that we'll pass in something like love, and we'll pass in the number of results I want to get back, and let's see what it does. So it goes and gets me 3 different results in this case. If I just want one, let's see how I can fix this. So now it only gives me 1, and it's just basically giving me a quote on, it should say love here somewhere, on love. And that's as simple as how you would actually go ahead and pull this. Now, for me to go and edit this API and actually go back and say, hey, I only want 3 or 9 or whatever it is, it's so easy to do. Similarly with tags here. If I wanted, I can actually put this as an input function, so somebody can actually put in what tag they wanted and it'll automatically pass to the function. So it's just so much more cleaner. Now, if I wanted to do the other one, and that is let's get it by length, we'll just go ahead and create another function here. I would say define get quote len, and this time we'll put in self, we'll put in min len, and we'll put in max len. And that's just basically the minimum and maximum size. And then we're going to go ahead and return self.s.get, and then we're going to go ahead and bring in that URL, which I'm going to do right now. Right there. So all I've done here is I've said I'm going to pass in the minimum length and the maximum length and return it back as a JSON. So we're going to go ahead and now get this one. So I'm going to go ahead and return or erase this. And we're just going to put in a minimum and a maximum. So say between 5 and 20, for example. And now it prints the quotes between 5 and 20. Or I could change this parameter and say between 5 and 50. And it'll do that as well. So it'll return back one quote that has 50 characters. So that's right there. That's a quote. Or 50 or less, that is. And then we'll just try out one more, and we'll say between 5 and 8. And you'll see that this quote is, let's go, very small. So anyways, that is how you would structure an actual API call. And this is the right way to do it because it's very clean. You're passing your authentication parameters here. And you can also pass through data, like through each one of these specific endpoints as well. And you can define data in a dictionary as well and pass those parameters in there as well. So there's a lot of cool things you can do here. But at the end of the day, I wanted to help people understand how to structure this so that you can actually have a clean way. And then I would say, you know, above all of these, you should always be putting in comments in terms of what it does, right? So what is this code actually responsible for? So, you know, this code does whatever, and you should do that everywhere. Just so that if you're passing this code on, it makes sense for people as well. So hopefully you guys took away a really quick lesson today. And if you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and I will see you next time. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.